whole city is rotting under liberal rule, and they act surprised every time something horrific happens. So after the Annunciation shooting, this little beta male trots out to the podium for his Oscar audition.
They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
Rosie O'Donnell. She's off in Ireland, a country begging us to take her back. And she keeps cranking out these little videos of her thought.
And what do you know? Was a white guy, Republican, MAGA person. What do you know? White supremacist.
Instead, Governor Pritzker films a self-congratulatory video by the Chicago River, metaphorical slap in the face to families buried.
We're very pleased about the progress that we're making. I know that I live rent-free in the president's head, and I wish he would spend some time in Chicago so that he could see what a lovely city we have.
Governor, quick follow-up. What do you do if the National Guard is activated and comes here?
Now, let's meet Brandon Johnson again. I've talked about him before, but for those of you who missed that, here we go.
I need you all to stand firm, to stand strong. If this president decides to continue to break this Constitution.
Welcome to Stay in the Fray podcast. I'm your host, Ryan. This is where headlines get hit hard, hypocrisy gets shredded, and the absurd are laughed at. If you want comfort, this isn't your place. If you want blunt and unfiltered, I'm your guy. Join me in the fray.
All you gotta do is just listen up.
Hey, you guys. Today's tough. Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis, Minnesota, August 27th, 2025. There were two children, 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel and 10-year-old Harper Moisky. They were slaughtered while they were praying at Mass. 18 kids and 3 elderly parishioners were wounded by a deranged gunman named Robin Westman, who then turned the weapon on himself. A bit too late, if you ask me. We're also following the harrowing stories of survivors, like 12-year-old Sophia Forchus, who remains in critical condition after having part of her skull removed, and a 10-year-old boy with a bullet fragment lodged inches from his carotid artery. This isn't a tragedy you just talk about. It's a mirror reflecting how toxic liberal rhetoric, blind ritualism, and narrative politics pile onto human, real-life suffering, amplifying the horror instead of demanding the right accountability. Maybe if we stopped gutless platitudes and woke up, fewer kids would end up like Fletcher and Harper. I'm not taking this lightly at all, because people are grieving. But that won't stop me from tearing into the misinformation, the hypocrisy, and the agenda-driven garbage that floats around tragedies like this, harder than ever. This is the brutal, blood-stained edition of They Really Said That here on Stay in the Fray podcast. It's September the 3rd, 2025. Let's roll. We're going to start with the embarrassment of Minneapolis, Mayor Jacob Frey. Is there any city outside of Los Angeles, Chicago, or New York that feels like more of a clusterfuck than Minneapolis right now? It's chaos, top to bottom. And gee, I wonder why. Let's start with Governor Tampon Tim Walz. This is the same guy who was caught on video the other day. Well, not really caught. It seemed like he was perfectly fine being filmed, hoping for the president's death. He sets the tone in Minnesota. And then you got Frey trying to play dress-up leader as the mayor. The whole city is rotting under liberal rule, and they act surprised every time something horrific happens. So after the Annunciation shooting, this little beta male trots out to the podium for his Oscar audition. I've got 2 clips for you, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Roll the first.
And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
All right. I agree with most of that. But I draw the line where this new narrative of the left is thoughts and prayers aren't enough. What is the point of even saying that? Millions of people in this country and worldwide pray when tragedy strikes. Christians, Jews, Muslim, every faith on earth turns to prayer in moments like these. And you know what? They should. That's not a weakness, that's humanity. The problem is that it's not our job, Jacob, as citizens to keep the kids safe. It's yours. It's the so-called leader's job. So don't turn around and sneer at people who are grieving in the only way they know how, while you continue to fail. And yes, Mayor, I agree with you on one thing. Parents should never have to wonder if their kids will make it home alive. I do the same worrying every single day. But don't you dare belittle people praying like it's some sort of empty gesture. Now here's the kicker, because we all knew where he was going to go next. Hit play.
We need to be doing more than talking. It can't just be words. There needs to be action. And when we have seen school shooting after school shooting, when we have seen churches get shot up by horrible actors, I think the impetus has to be on all of us as leaders to do a whole lot more, to recognize that we've got more guns in this country than we have people. And it's on all of us to recognize the truth and the reality that we can't just say that this shouldn't happen again and then allow it to happen again and again beyond that. It's on all of us. And I have heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity.
Wow. Of course. Politicize away, my man. Of course. Frey blurts out, we've got more guns than people. Well, no shit, Sherlock. The cat's out of the bag there. We know. Now, tell me, genius, what's your plan? Is it to collect every single gun, knock on every door with a tote bag, making your rounds of collections? You think the bad guys are going to line up and hand them over to you and say, I'm sorry, Mayor, my bad? All you're going to do is disarm the law-abiding citizens and leave the criminals armed to the teeth. And just a reminder, people, Minneapolis already has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So does Chicago. So does Baltimore. So does Detroit. Do you see a pattern? Gun control isn't saving your cities, Frey. Someone, anyone, give me a real solution besides ban the guns. Because if it's not guns, it'll be knives, cars, bombs, or whatever creative way lunatics decide to use weapons to kill. Evil doesn't disappear because you outlaw a tool used for that purpose. I have a solution, at least for the children. We put armed guards in the schools, every single one. We have the best training programs available in the world. Put them to use. Hire security, hire police. Station them where our kids are. How is that controversial? We guard banks, we guard politicians, we guard celebrities. But somehow protecting classrooms is a bad idea. It keeps our children safe. And by the way, it creates jobs. The only people who hate this idea are the ones more concerned with the virtue signaling than with saving lives. Not to mention, by the way, the Constitution says we have every right to bear arms. It's not negotiable. This is what the country believes in and what it was founded on. And then, as if this circus wasn't insulting enough, he starts babbling about how people are somehow taking this out on the trans community, which is, no offense to trans people, but 0.6% of the world. No, dumbass, we're not blaming the trans community. We're blaming you and people like you for refusing to address real patterns, mental health, home life, red flags that are ignored. And by the way, maybe look at the fact that in just the past few years, we've had multiple high-profile shootings involving trans-identifying shooters. Nashville's Covenant School shooter Audrey Hale, Denver's Devin Erickson, Aberdeen's Schnokia, Mosley, Colorado Springs' Anderson Lee Aldridge, and the Colorado school shooter Maya McKinney. There's some receipts. That's a conversation worth having, but it's one that you're too scared to touch because woke politics. And every time cowards like Frey dodge the mental health angle, it only guarantees another name will get added to that list. He didn't say a single word about mental health. He didn't mention broken homes. He didn't mention the obvious signs everyone around this shooter saw. Nothing. Just politics, guns, and protecting his image. Why don't these idiots hold press conferences every time a kid in Minneapolis dies in the inner city? I know, because they'd be on stage every single day, all day. And that doesn't gain them any political points. This, they can exploit. So I'll say what he refused to say, with honesty. My thoughts and prayers do go out for the families, for what they're going through, because there's no world where prayer makes things worse. Here at Stay in the Fray podcast, we believe that prayer and thoughts are never wasted, and it sure as hell isn't as empty as the garbage that comes out of Jacob Frey's mouth. Moving on, straight out of irrelevance and into our ears again is Rosie O'Donnell. She had to weigh in on this tragedy. Maybe making my blood boil is her entire new career strategy at this point. I don't know. She's off in Ireland, a country begging us to take her back. And she keeps cranking out these little videos of her thoughts. And spoiler alert, they're as worthless as her entire career. Here's the first one. Hit play.
Just could not get it through my head that students in America were shooting each other in schools. And this was a church inside a Catholic school. And what do you know, was a white guy, Republican, MAGA person. What do you know? White supremacist.
Sure about that, Rosie? There it is. The liberal Mad Libs. White male, Republican, MAGA, white supremacist. You could probably set your watch by it now. Now we're going to break down how many boxes Rosie actually managed to check correctly. 1. The shooter was a white male, not a they, them, not a magical unicorn of gender identity, XY chromosomes, a man with a hog between his legs. Full stop. Everything else that Rosie spewed is absolute garbage. Here's the reality. Again, this was a white male who identified as a woman, changed his name from Robert to Robin a few years ago. Full rebrand, the whole 9 yards. He had a manifesto and a video library of sick, obsessive ramblings. On his gun magazines, he scrawled, "Kill Trump." So much for the MAGA theory. He wrote, "Free Palestine." Sorry, Rosie, white supremacists don't usually rally for Hamas, and he was no Republican. What he was is exactly what I keep saying. Mentally broken, dangerous, and screaming for help that no one gave him. And it wasn't just vague rantings. This guy openly admitted to wanting to kill children. He wrote it down. He said it out loud. He plastered those words all across the same weapons he used at Annunciation Church. That's not right-wing. That's not MAGA. That's not Republican, Rosie. That's pure psychosis. And her first instinct is to project her lazy narrative on the entire right. This is why her video should be required viewing for conservatives trying to explain the madness of the woke left. She is Exhibit A in how lies get spread and how facts get buried. But wait. Rosie wasn't done. She definitely got some pushback on this, as she deserved, so she did what every washed-up celebrity does. She posted an apology video. Let's take a listen to this. Go ahead, boys.
Hi, everybody. It's Rosie O'Donnell, star of the Flintstones. Listen, I have a cold sore. I know. Happens. Get run down, you know. Anyway, I know a lot of you were very upset about the video I made before I went away for a few days. I didn't go online and haven't seen them till today. But you are right. I did not do my due diligence before I made that emotional statement. And I said things about the shooter that were incorrect. I assumed, like most shooters, they followed a standard MO and had standard, feelings of NRA-loving kind of gun people. Anyway, the truth is, I messed up, and when you mess up, you fess up. I'm sorry. This is my apology video, and I hope it's enough.
God. The worst apology video I've ever seen in my life. First off, she leads with bragging about being the star of the Flintstones. Really? Nobody gave a shit when that movie came out, and nobody gives a shit now. Why would she even mention it? It's so weird. It's not an apology. It's just like a desperate attempt to remind us that she once mattered. Then she says she didn't do her due diligence. Well, no shit, Rosie. You didn't do your homework, and you vomited out a narrative anyway. Then she stumbles and mumbles through the line. She assumed, like most shooters, NRA, blah, blah, blah. And she stops short because she knows exactly what she was going to say. And she knows it would expose her bias. Everyone watching can see the gears grinding. That wasn't an apology. That was damage control. She wraps it up with, "This is my apology video, and I hope it's enough." Well, Rosie, if I actually cared about you, and I don't, it wouldn't be enough. You left out the truth. The shooter was a Trump-hating, transgender dude. You left out his manifesto. You left out his threats against children. You left out the real danger. And you left that out on purpose. Rosie O'Donnell isn't sorry. She's trash. This whole act was nothing more than her proving my point. Again, these people do not care about the facts. They care about pushing the narrative no matter how many lives are on the line. Well, let's move on. We're going to shift from the shooting to the issues in some of our larger cities that our president is trying to help out with. So we'll shift from Hollywood, washed up Hollywood, to the Midwest political clown show in Illinois. If Rosie was embarrassing, just wait until you hear these two geniuses and what they had to say about Trump trying to help their crime-ridden city. From one liberal city's failed leaders to another, welcome to the Tweedledee and Tweedle Dipshit show. J.D. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson. The violence isn't just limited to Annunciation Catholic School, obviously. People, kids, are being killed every damn night in cities like Chicago. So President Trump actually tried to help one of them. He sent the National Guard to D.C. to support the local police. You know what happened? Crime tanked, massively dropped. Carjackings plunged by 87%. Violent crime dropped 45%. Arrests surged. Guns were seized. All while Mayor Bowser gave very reluctant credit, but credit nonetheless, to how much safer D.C. is now. Even a CBS news breakdown shows that violent crime is down nearly 50% in D.C. since the Guard deployment. Robberies are down 48%, car thefts are down 36%, and all targeted to high crime areas. But now picture this. With that success, Trump says he would do the same for Chicago, especially after another weekend with 25 plus shootings and 6 deaths by gun. Yet, Governor Pritzker of Illinois and Mayor Brandon Johnson act like divine intervention from Trump is worse than the bloodshed in their city. It gets messier when you consider Trump doesn't have automatic authority in Illinois. He'd have to navigate the handoff. But wouldn't it make sense for these so-called stewards of the people to pause their Trump derangement syndrome for 5 minutes? Just long enough to let federal aid help them keep their own cities safer. Instead, Governor Pritzker films a self-congratulatory video by the Chicago River. Metaphorical slap in the face to families buried.
We're very pleased about the progress that we're making. I know that I live rent-free in the president's head, and I wish he would spend some time in Chicago so that he could see what a lovely city we have.
Governor, quick follow-up. What do you do if the National Guard is activated and comes your...
I love it. He brags about being proud of the progress Chicago is making. Meanwhile, the real stats fight back. Shootings and homicides surged just last weekend. And get this, he says he lives rent-free in Trump's head. Dude, Trump's not thinking of you. He's thinking about American lives at risk. He's got enough to do. You're the one dodging your responsibility. Bonus points, by the way, for the cameraman who panned up to the Trump Tower sign behind him like a boss. JB, like you'd possibly forget, whose hands are reaching out to help every time you see that sign? Now, let's meet Brandon Johnson again. I've talked about him before, but for those of you who missed that, here we go. Can Chicago please snag a mayor who doesn't think Frankfurt, not fantasy, when lives are on the line? Roll it.
Are you prepared to defend this land that was built by slaves, a land that was built by indigenous people, a land that is built by workers? Are you prepared to defend this land? The people united will always prevail. I need you all to stand firm, to stand strong. If this president decides to continue to break this Constitution...
Had to cut him off. Johnson grabs a mic in front of what sounds like about 50 people and yells about defending land built by slaves and indigenous people. And he's calling on citizens to fight Trump if he dares to send help. Identity politics, smack dab in the middle of Chicago's carnage. It's unreal. This is the kind of performative garbage that gets people killed every day. If you're going to attack the man offering a lifeline, at least make sure your city isn't hemorrhaging. And here's what blows my mind. How does anyone buy into the nonsense? I don't get it. I've watched interviews with Chicago residents, real people who live there, raise kids there, work there. You know what? They're relieved that Trump wants to step in. Some of them are begging for him to. Of course, some of them don't and pretend there's no problem. But most are grateful that someone finally gives a damn about their safety. This has been going on far too long with no change. And still, even after defunding the police, and even after so-called progress that the governor spoke of, they'll tell you flat out, Chicago is nowhere near safe. The residents are speaking. Go listen to them. Who the hell actually supports these leaders like Pritzker and Johnson? Who looks around and sees bodies piling up and says, yes, please give us more of this? Who wants more crime? The answer is nobody with a brain. Nobody with feelings. Somehow, these clowns keep getting elected. I suppose it's the indoctrination into people to hate one man as much as they think they do. That's not leadership. That's a death wish. Let's wrap this up with some half comic relief, half celebrity ignorance. Alec Baldwin. Believe it or not, it's the first time he's made it onto They Really Said That segment with me. There's a lot to go with here. He had a run of some great movie moments. I'm not going to lie. But lately he's turned into a full-time Trump-hating sideshow. Here he is sitting in some park, probably supposed to be watching one of the toddlers that he fathered now at the ripe age of 67. But instead, he's ranting into his phone about Trump. Let's roll it.
What's going to happen next? Is Trump going to federalize the New York City Police Department? What's after that? Chicago, LA, Miami, Boston, and on and on. What's after that? The NFL, the NBA, you're going to federalize them and take them over? All he wants to do is deflect from his inadequacy by these bold, insane moves. Take over DC police. That's not what I need. I don't need this DC police to be taken over. I don't. I need to get the tariffs over with. I need to get the war over with. I need to get the Gaza thing over with. And after that, we have something else we have to get over with.
Clever, Alec. So Baldwin's worried. Trump federalized D.C. And he says, what's next? L.A., Chicago, Miami, Boston? Yes, Alec, exactly. If it saves lives, if it keeps kids from being shot, then yes, every city should be on the table. I wouldn't stress about Miami, though, because Ron DeSantis has that covered. Then he goes on about Trump wanting to deflect from his inadequacy. What does that even mean, Alec? Inadequacy, as in Trump doing exactly what the people voted for when it comes to crime? The crime in D.C. is down. The guard's working. The numbers do not lie. Meanwhile, Alec Baldwin's best contribution to public safety was accidentally shooting someone on set with what he thought were blanks. Perhaps Trump should be keeping an eye on him. And then Baldwin says, it's not what I need. I don't need the D.C. police taking over. Well, sure, Alec, you don't need it. You live behind gates with private security, multi-million-dollar homes. Of course you don't need it. But the people getting carjacked, assaulted, and murdered in D.C. sure as hell do. This isn't about you. It's about them. He closes with a smug little aside about, we have something else we have to get rid of, clearly pointing at the 2028 election, dreaming of when Trump will be out of office. Maybe he's hoping for the 2026 elections to shift things, but I'm not seeing much hope for him when it comes to that. But thanks for the help, Alec, by the way. Every time you and your Hollywood buddies spew this garbage, you push another swing voter into our camp. So here's your reality check. Alec Baldwin, meet J.D. Vance. He'll be your president in 2028. Because of idiots like you, Republicans are going to be sitting comfortably in power for years to come. So I'll review. Alec Baldwin, the guy who shot a woman on set, punched a man over a parking spot in 2018, who's been arrested multiple times for disorderly conduct, harassment, assault, and he called his own daughter a rude, thoughtless little pig on a leaked voicemail. He thinks he's got the moral authority to lecture us on leadership and public safety. Shut the fuck up, Alec. You've done more damage with a prop gun and a voicemail than Trump has ever done in D.C. So there it is. A deathly serious topic, pun intended, surrounded by absurd, ridiculous, and flat-out dangerous rhetoric from liberal leaders and two washed-up celebrities who think Twitter rants count as policy. I don't know what else to say. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over while expecting a different result. And yet the left keeps doubling down on the very ideas that keep tanking them. On every 80-20 issue, they proudly back the 20%. They defend crime instead of defending citizens. They protect ideology instead of protecting kids. They push identity politics instead of common sense. The country has been telling them over and over that woke is dead. We voted it out, number one. The Democratic Party's approval rating sits at a nice 17%. 17. What more do you need to hear before you admit that you've lost the room? But every day, they keep plowing ahead, disillusioned, detached, and drunk on their own lies. And that's why I keep calling it out. It's loud, raw, and unapologetic. Somebody has to say the things that they're too cowardly to admit. So come join me. Spread this thing. Let's bring common sense back with a bang. Together. So like and follow and subscribe. I hate asking that. But all the things, because that helps. It's more appreciated than you know. Not just by me, but by all the like-minded out there. So, stay aware, stay armed, stay relentless, stay in the fray. Love you guys.
All you gotta do is just listen up.